Welcome to another interview about the wacky world of Alberta politics. I mean, this is just the gift that keeps on giving, folks. In fact, I can't keep up. I'm going to be talking to Deirdre Mitchell McLean, who is the author of the Substack Women in Ab Poly. So, welcome to the interview, Deirdre.
Hi, great to be here, Markham.
I think we should do this more often because there is just new stuff coming all the time. But we're going to talk about three things today. So viewers, hang in there. You want to listen to or watch all three of them, or the things we discuss. We're going to talk about Carrie Tate, the Globe and Mail reporter who's been harassed for her coverage of the Alberta healthcare scandal, the Alberta Next panels, and then we're going to finish up with the latest on the two independent previous UCP MLAs who were trying to revive the Progressive Conservative Party unsuccessfully, as it turns out. That's the agenda for the interview. Deirdre, give us the overview of poor Carrie's predicament here.
Yeah, so that just dropped Monday morning. And apparently, Carrie Tate, a journalist with the Globe and Mail, who broke many of the stories, I think almost all of the stories with Alana Smith, um, about the essentially fraud that has been going on or is
Alleged
allegedly
fraud.
going on. Yep.
Alleged fraud.
The alleged fraud in the procurement area of Alberta Health Services. And so Carrie Tate is the one who dropped all of that information, and she was very good at it. She's obviously got some sources, and as it turns out, what we saw on Monday is that someone has been stalking her, taking pictures of her meeting with people and not just meeting with people, but somebody took pictures of her going to the pharmacy to pick up a prescription. So it's not just that they're looking at who she's meeting with, but they're actually stalking her and posting photos online.
This is not a brand new problem. This has been a problem before. And I remember one just came off the top of my head when Kean Bexley, when he was with Rebel News, he and three big burly guys surrounded this young female reporter for the Narwhal and basically intimidated her, physically intimidated her. It was, and she was very crafty. She got her boom box out and made a big fuss, and they all ran away. But that kind of thing has been happening to female reporters. Oh, and Rachel Gilmore, the harassment she
Mhm.
received online when she was a CTV reporter.
And now still.
Here's the question for you, though. I want to get at the misogyny of this because there is absolutely no doubt that while there's a political dimension to it, it is not a secret that these trolls and whoever they are go after women far more than men.
Mhm.
Give me your take on that.
So it's a weird space for me to be in because I feel like I have a lot of privilege with what I do as well. And I mean, I don't break too many stories, but some I do have access to. And being a woman, especially in Alberta politics, even just opining about it, there's an element of you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be saying this. And that happens mostly online, but I don't find that I fear for physical safety as a general rule. However, the experiences that we've seen, another one is Shannon Phillips when she was being surveilled by some of the Lethbridge Police Service. And when that happened, again, I kind of felt like I'm not an elected official. This doesn't affect me. But do you know what? It does affect me because when I go to my LinkedIn and I see that RCMP or Edmonton Police Service has looked at my profile, there's an initial fear there. And I immediately go through what have I said? What have I written? And now also, I had a criminology concentration. So there is a legitimate reason why they might be at my profile, but that fear is now there.
There's a problem here in that in North American culture, there used to be a taboo about how you treated about disrespecting reporters when they were doing their job. So when I got started in
Hmm.
1989 as a print reporter, when I was out doing a story, People would just get out of the way of a shot. They wouldn't bother you. They'd see you interviewing, and that taboo has been broken.
Yeah.
And now more extreme elements, and this is almost entirely on the right, and sort of the maple MAGA, as Charlie Angus calls it. Uh, they actually target reporters in order to delegitimize them.
Hmm.
And I think got to be an important part of this story. That's what they're trying to do, is intimidate Carrie and get her to pull back on her reporting.
Right. And it's not even just Carrie, like that, the fact that she's being followed and photographed, that is also about intimidating anyone who might be meeting with her. So there's that element as well, right? And it's, I mean, Daniel Smith's response to that was, I'll take your word, abysmal, right? I'm not talking about that. It's none of my business. You are the premier of this province. You're a woman. You are a former media personality. And so someone who could be you is being stalked. And this isn't any of your business. Like, I mean, this is the same person who just brought in a provincial police service that she could, quote unquote, direct to provincial priorities. Well, make this a priority, Premier Smith, because obviously it's a problem.
Well, and that raises the issue of whether or not she might direct them to harass reporters. I mean,
Hmm.
that's one of the things they could do. They could do something like the Lethbridge police did to Shannon Phillips, an NDP MLA for those who aren't from Alberta. And she could do that. And the problem with what she said is that the indifference fuels the trolls, the harassers, the stalkers. And this is something I've been saying for a long time, and is that folks like this, whatever the context, need to be pushed back under their rock. They need to
Hmm.
be delegitimized, and that 40, that hubris that they've got, taken away from them. They need to be, we need to get back to social stigma for that kind of behavior.
Absolutely. And that's something that I've noticed. So, I mean, I grew up in 80s, 90s era, and you know, um, misogyny was pretty prevalent still, just jokes, things like that, but it was still there. Sexism, um, it was a normal part of my growing up. And at some point it started to change. And I don't know exactly when it started to change, but little things. So one of the things that I had noticed was that they started to use he or she when they were in business documents or whatever, and that became normalized. I read a book that was late night writing for late night entertainment, and it was written in 2017. Now, as I was reading it, I was like 30 pages in before the author recognized that maybe a writer might be a woman, and it was all in the heat, right? And I was just kind of like, I started to feel like I was not the audience.
I, I,
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh, just that a lot of like these things had changed, and they seem like they're starting to reverse. And it's noticeable because apparently they had changed. Apparently something has changed in our society that is coming, well, is turning back around.
Let me speak from my own personal experience. I mean, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and it's really hard not to carry some of those attitudes with you. But personally, a big moment for me was the Me Too movement.
Mm,
And I know a lot of, I saw a lot of it online. And one of the points that get made over and over again is, men, just be quiet and listen. And so I did. I thought, okay, that's good advice. I get that. I'm going to listen. And one of the things that I heard women say over and over again, like thunderingly loud, was how vulnerable they felt in ways that men will never understand. Just,
yeah.
walking on a dark street or whatever it is. And this is just exactly like that. And so on the one hand, as a male journalist, I want to support Carrie Tate and push back against this. On the other hand, I'm trying to be careful not to mansplain things and not to, overwhelm this conversation with a male point of view. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I mean, I've learned the same thing, right? When we were covering, anytime I would go to cover like Indigenous issues, um, it's a space that I shouldn't occupy. It's a space that I should just, try and amplify voices who are actually within it. Now, does that mean that I can't have something to say about it? It doesn't. It's just that I'm careful with it. I'm careful with and making sure that I'm doing it from my point of view. Um, and I think that's just something, there's people that say, well, I don't want to filter myself, right? I don't want to have to, think about all of that. Well, eventually it does become, habit. It's just that much easier once you recognize it and put it together. So like, yeah, it's all of this is tough, but it does seem to be targeted, at women, at women journalists for sure, journalists in general though too. So it's yeah, it's many layered.
Now I want to talk again about my personal experience, but this time as a journalist, and what it's like for a male, at least how I handle it. I often say that you have to understand that I played junior hockey in the 70s to understand my social media etiquette. And you'll know what that means. And any of the viewers who follow me on social media will know what that means. But it's kind of elbows up, drop the mitts. That's the way it is. And so I like Deirdre, I have been harassed at home lately by the Alberta separatists. They call me up and they start yelling at me on the phone, and I don't find that intimidating. I yell back at them
Mhm.
and I shout them down, and then I hang up on them. Or when somebody on social media says, "Yeah, I ever catch you in Alberta in a parking lot," and I go, "Buddy, bring a bag for your teeth." That's and you know what? After a while, they kind of leave you alone because
Yeah.
they can't intimidate. But that's my perspective as a male. That's my privilege, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. I have the ability to respond that way, and women don't. And
Mhm.
we need to do what's necessary to make sure that women can be journalists, do what's required without the threat of this hanging over their head.
Mhm. No, absolutely. And it's it's one thing to be able to, online. I have actually just I used to I used to care a little bit more, I guess is what I would say. I used to try and engage because I was trying to learn about different perspectives. And eventually it just got to the point where, I could stop someone from just being absolutely ignorant by responding essentially with that was unnecessary. And it seemed like most people would kind of smarten up because that's not how I do my social media. But but it just kind of got to the point where if somebody comes at me with something just ridiculously offensive, I just mute. I just mute and I go away. But again, this isn't something that I'm dealing with in person. Now, if I was dealing with it in person, I don't know why, but I have a little bit of the elbows up in me as well. Yeah, I could see me socking somebody for getting in my face like that. It's possible. But at the same time, like, yeah, personally, I don't feel intimidated. But at the same time, it's now something that is in my mind.
Sure.
What if, right?
Right.
And that does, it puts a damper not just on a journalist trying to do their job, but it really puts a damper on the ability of people who know that something is wrong and want to get that information out there. Now they are actually reconsidering how to connect.